trades near 7,200. The stellar debut for DOMS as it sees over 77% premium to its issue price. Meanwhile, India Shelter also lists on a strong note. And Varun Beverages off highs after popping over 18% on the news that the company aims to acquire South African beverage company Bevco. And private investment banking firm Blackstone has exited from Embassy Real Estate Group, selling its entire 23.5% stake for 7,100 crore rupees. The Colorado Supreme Court has deemed former US President Donald Trump ineligible to run for presidency due to 14th Amendment's insurrection ban. The state SC decision only applies to the state of Colorado. Welcome. You're watching Large Trades, a show in which we talk about all with respect to bulk deals, block deals, and volume buzzers. I'm Agam Vakil. Before that, a quick look at how the markets are faring. And we have seen some sharp selling coming through over the course of the last half an hour, where we are looking at a lot of weakness coming in and a lot of that potentially profit taking in what it seems like. But for now, the benchmarks are trading near the day's lows, not at day's lows, but near. And we've seen volatility return to markets after sanguine moves over the past couple of sessions. For now, the mid-cap and the small-cap indices are where we are seeing the pain intensify. In fact, the mid-cap index is down as much as 1.9%, nearly 2% there, and the small-cap index as well, losing out well over 2.5% at the moment. So a lot of profit-taking when it comes to the broader markets. Let's quickly also take a look at all those broader market movers and see where a lot of that weakness is coming. So if I do consider something like a mid-cap index and take a look at where we are starting to see substantial declines, we're now looking at profit taking in something like an IRFC that is down 5.9%. IRFC under pressure, something like a Vodafone Idea, which is down 5%, along with something like a Yes Bank, which is also losing out by just as much. Rajesh Exports, which has been up and about off late, Rajesh Exports is also down as much as 6%. NHPC taking the tumble by just as much, and it's the same for Piramal Enterprises, which is also down by around 5.9%. A lot of weakness, and it's come through largely on account of the last 1 hour of trade in terms of what's really happened. It doesn't mean that we don't have gainers in broader markets. We do have Oil India, which continues to surge up as much as 7%, but do remember that even Oil India has come off from days highs. At one point in time, it was up around 14%. It is now up only 7%. Voltas as well has given up its days highs, now trending higher by 4%, followed by Thermax, which is up around 2.5%. Of course, we're going to talk a lot talk to you about all these stocks as we move into the show. And speaking of which, let's address as to what we are in fact going to be talking about with respect to large trades today. So Varun Beverages, of course, will be in focus. We are also going to talk about Voltas. Oil India stands out, of course, and Nippon Life, AMC, is also going to be in focus in today's day of trade. And with that, we start off with Varun Beverages, which is rallying today. And of course, this is largely on account of its acquisition in South Africa. And I'm going to get in my colleague Mahima to give us an update on the same. Mahima, let's start off with the basics. Give us the technicals at this point in time.
Right. So Agam, if you see, VBL is set to acquire 100% stake in Bevco, South Africa's Bevco. The transaction is valued at 1320 crores, and this funding shall be done by an investment PE fund, and the remaining VBL will be raising via debt. And if you see, after this acquisition, VBL now has access to over 10 African nations. locations. A brief about Bevco. Bevco has franchisee rights and distribution rights across Africa. It has 5 manufacturing facilities in South Africa, and if you see, they've reported volumes of 117 million cases, which is like 15% of VBL's volume. If you also see South African market for beverages, South Africa has the largest soft drink market in Africa with a consumption per capita of 240 bottles per year. At present, Coca-Cola has a lion's share in beverages, approximately 45% of the market share. So VBL acquiring Bevco will help PepsiCo enter South African markets. In recent news, Varun Beverages also signed an MOU with Jharkhand for setting up a manufacturing plant with a total capital outlay of 450 crores. And if we also see, the recent acquisitions also consist of distribution rights in Mozambique and bottling plant in Democratic Republic of Congo. So the entire acquisition process of VBL is very strong at present in terms of geographical locations as well as in terms of the value at which it is taking place.
This does certainly add in terms of its earnings bottom line, which is why we're seeing that surge as far as the stock's concerned. Remember that even though it has come off from its day's highs, we're still looking at an advance of nearly 8% as we speak. Mahima, that's as far as your updates go. What is the street making of this company?
Right, Agam. So we had multiple brokerage reports which came out on Varun Beverages today. MK said that post a 70% run-up in the stock in the past 52 weeks, they maintain a reduced rating with a target price of 1150. We also had a CLSA report on VBL where they have raised their ratings to buy with a target price of 1419. And then we had Jeffries on VBL, which have rated them buy with a target price of 1100. And they expect that this will add 7 to 15% in their EBITDA volumes. If we talk about analyst recommendations, 15 say buy, 3 say hold, and 1 say sell. So overall, if we see, FMCG companies are foraying into different geographical locations. Yesterday, Devyani came up with acquiring a company in Thailand. Today, Varun Beverages is foraying into the South African markets. So it seems like it's a good expansion for FMCG companies in different geographical locations.
Okay, Mahima, thanks so much for getting us those updates. A lot to talk about and a lot to take in as well when it comes to Varun Beverages. But on that note, we're going to slip into a short break. But on the other side, we get you a lot more in terms of last trades. Stay tuned in. Welcome back. You're watching Large Trades on NDTV Profit. Before I move on to our next topic, I want to very quickly once again address what's happening in the markets, because we've seen a sharp surge, a sharp drop. And in fact, in the last 5 minutes, we have seen the markets make a new intraday low. At the moment, we're seeing the Nifty decline by around 0.7%, but it is the broader markets, the mid-cap and the small-cap indices, which are in fact taking a huge knock at this point in time. So the mid-cap index is now down 2% almost. At one point in time, it had gone over 2%. Small cap index, that's down as much as 2.5%. It seems like a bout of profit taking. Clearly, at the moment, we're going to have to wait and watch whether or not that is the case, or is there something deeper which may have been or more of an impact when it comes to your broader markets. We'll continue to keep an eye on several of these indices and counters. But moving on, our next stop on the list is Voltas. Now, that's also hit an intraday high of 7% today, and we have Anushi who's joining us with an update on the same. Anushi, not too much to speak for when it comes to news flow, but if you could just talk us through what's happened today as well as recently.
Right. So as you mentioned, the stock is up about 7%, with its trading volumes up about 6x of its 30-day average. Now, while there are no fundamental drivers, as you correctly mentioned, let's just go back to the H1 FY24's performance, wherein the company had reported a decent revenue growth of about 25%. But what was a drag over here was a margin downside which took place of about 127 bips. That could be explained by the decreasing market share of the company, which declined to 19% compared to about 22% last year. So definitely competitive intensity is increasing in this one.
Some details on this one.
Right. So if you look at the recent fundraising, that is about the company had declared about 500 crores for fundraising for its capex requirements in the Chennai and Waghodia plant. So this could be in the move to expand its current capacities over there and to gain higher market share. So definitely watching this. And now if we look at the analyst recommendations, we see a bit of a mixed response here, with 20 holding a buy rating and about 15 having a hold rating and 9 having a sell rating. So we see a downside potential for this one if we just consider the analyst view of about 5%. So that's all on Voltas today.
All right, Anushi, thanks for getting us those updates. Of course, Voltas has also moderated from day's highs at the moment, and this is because of that sharp sell-off in the markets. It's still up as much as 4% at the moment, but we're going to have to wait and watch as to where that in fact takes us. As far as the markets go, again, we are seeing weakness. Remember that today is also the Bank Nifty expiry. I'm not sure if a lot of traders were expecting the Bank Nifty to move as low as where it is right now. Certainly not. 47,500. We've already moved below the mark of 47,600. The expectation was that the expiry would be somewhere around 48,000, maybe 100, 200 points here and there. But it seems like at the moment we're likely to expire significantly below the mark of 48,000. We're going to keep an eye on that as well. On that note, we're going to take another break, but lots more lined up. Stay tuned to NDTV Profit. Welcome back to Large Trades, and while we see the market sell off, we are going to talk about yet another big up move, and that's Oil India. Of course, that's also tempered from its day's highs, currently still up as much as 7.4%, and we'll get your view on the market soon. But let's get in my colleague Varsha to tell us a little more about the large volumes that we've seen. Varsha, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Agam. So as you rightly said, so Oil India hits intraday high of almost 19% in trade today, and stock is up almost 24% in last 1 month. If you see the volumes are up at 7x its 30-day average of 2.86 crores.
What are the factors at play here? What are the possible reasons that could in fact lead to Oil India ahead?
So a couple of factors, Agam. The first being Brent prices. So rise in Brent prices actually help these exploration companies because the realization prices go up and so do their sales. And also if you see the prices are closing higher, Brent prices are closing higher in the past 2 sessions, and they are up almost 6.7% in the past 2 weeks. The second being government reduction of windfall taxes. The taxes on domestically produced crude oil has reduced from 5,000 per ton to 1,300 per ton, and also taxes on export of diesel has been reduced to 0.50 per litre from 1 rupees per litre. However, tax on export of jet fuels has been hiked to rupees 1 per litre from nil earlier.
Yeah, of course, diesel is a significant factor in there. Besides the fact that we have domestically produced crude oil, so these taxation factors will play in the windfall. Varsha, but what is the street making of Oil India?
So, Agam, Antic had a report on Oil India where it has maintained buy rating and it has increased their target price also. Now, the reason being company on track for 21% and 51% increase in oil and gas production in the medium term. Now, the production growth to be driven by rise in the developmental wells being drilled in existing areas. So, technically, they're going to drill 65 wells in FY24 versus average of 40. And also, the cumulative capex for FY24-26 is expected to be $3 billion, and also that Numaligarh refinery capacity expansion is to be completed in FY25, which will make Oil India an integrated oil company.
All right, Varsha, thank you so much for getting us those details on Oil India. Some critical factors out there which are playing in favor of the company, and it's not just Oil India, it's also ONGC, which is advancing in trade today, though these stocks have also seen them come off from day's highs. But from there on, we move on to MBC REIT. Now, we do know that there's in a mega block, we have Blackstone, which has made a full exit in terms of its 23.5% stake. But there were all sorts of questions as to who the buyers were, and for that, I'm going to get in my colleague Saloni Kothari to give us an update on the same. Saloni, what do you have for us?
Hi, Agam. So, yeah, as you mentioned, Blackstone has sold its entire 23.5% stake in Embassy REIT. And to understand, who the buyers were, we spoke to a few people. Our sources told us that Capital Group, Fidelity, Bain Capital, ICICI Mutual Fund are among the investors, existing investors who have upsized their stake in the REIT through this block deal, which means that they already had stake in the company. And SBI Mutual Fund is among the new investors that has entered the company through this block deal. What we've also understood that the shares were sold at rupees 316 per share, and Blackstone has been able to raise around 7,100 crore. This is to keep in mind that they were planning to sell the stake since the start of the year and kind of struggled to get the right buyer for the same, especially from the private transactions, as the valuations that they were demanding was obviously not something that they were getting. But now when we spoke to a few sources, they said that this is the right time according to them, given the market boom that we are seeing and also the market conditions that we are seeing, as to quote them. So this is what we've picked up from our sources.
All right, Saloni, thank you so much for getting us those updates, and we have an idea who the buyers are, but we need to address what's happening with the markets at the moment. And while there has been a little bit of temperance in that selling activity in the last 10 minutes, there's really been not a lot of let-up when it comes to your broader markets. So your mid-cap index and your small-cap indices are still under tremendous pressure, and even though they're off days lows, but well, they're in the red. ahead. So the small cap index specifically right at the moment is down as much as 2%. We're in a conversation now with Jay Bala of Cash the Chaos. Jay, thanks for joining in and taking this call. At the moment, we've seen a sharp sell-off in the markets. I know on an absolute basis it's not tremendous, but still, no one was really expecting such a sharp slide in a very short span in time. Are we reading too much into this, or is there some concern coming through?
Yeah, there's definitely some concern even before this, and thanks for having me on the show. The concern for me actually technically is coming from two sectors. One is the banks, another one is the auto. And I would say my objective for the Nifty was about 21,100. It has overshot that, and the momentum until yesterday was quite strong. So my thinking was that as long as banks can hold up and autos can hold up, this market could be safe. And the breakdown point for the banks comes at about 46,800. So if banks were to go below 46,800, then that will be a concern. It can cause disruption for the overall market. But as long as banks stay above 46,800, I think this market has got one more leg up. That's my opinion at this point in time.
Right, Jess. So we're not too far away from 46,800. We're about 800 points away, which is less than a couple of percentage points at the moment. How are you reading this? And at the moment, would you perhaps take a long position in banks, keeping 46,800 as a stop, perhaps?
Yes, I would definitely avoid banks. I would rather focus on other sectors. And the strongest sectors are realty and FMCG. So, and you might want to keep your focus within those sectors. And something like say PSC, the defense sector stocks. You may want to focus over there. And even these are going to be short-term bets. In my opinion, for this leg of the move, we're probably in the last stretch of the move for the Nifty. So, you should probably be wearing a trading hat or, not add fresh positions, but hold on to the existing position with trailing stops.
All right. Jay, you spoke about the Nifty. Can we assume that the sharp up move that we've seen in the Nifty for now has ended and we can expect perhaps some consolidation going forward?
Yeah, short-term consolidation, definitely. I'm not completely sure, the move has ended. If the turn had come from 21,100, 21,200, then I would have been more convinced. But the turn down is coming from 21,591. So, but today's price action is very negative. But I need further evidence from the market. Breakdown of one of these key sectors, either the banks or the Nifty Auto, for me to conclude the move is over. But as long as that's not happened, I would continue to believe the current trend as persisting. But the auto sector is the most significant one. The key level for there is 17,280. If the auto sector were to break down below 17,280, it's definitely a concern. And I have some probing, short calls on auto sector. Even something like a Hero Motors. The two-wheelers have been quite strong. So watch out for two-wheelers to start. Further underperforming. If that happens, then there'll definitely be a cause for concern.
Okay, Jay, you did mention 46,800 to be watched out for when it comes to the Bank Nifty on the lower end. Let's assume that traders are in fact going ahead and initiating short positions at the moment, and the confirmation on that down move would be 46,800. What would the stop be then in that case?
Definitely. For the banks, the stop would be 48,219, and then for the Nifty, it will be today's high. And today's candle, as I said, is quite a negative candle. It's made a new all-time high, but it's trying to close near the low below 3 days ago. So that's a very negative sign. But the momentum is still there, and as I said earlier, we need to see further confirmation and evidence from banks and autos. Autos, is a key for me. And I would say banks and auto equally key, I would say.
All right. Just a final question, and that's on information technology. Some of these stocks, in fact, aided the Nifty higher through the course of last Thursday and Friday, and perhaps given some support to the benchmarks here on. How are you viewing this sector if you have a bunch of names here as well?
Yeah, here, Infi is weaker than TCS, the frontline name, and my objective for the Nifty IT index was about 36,500. Now it's come to about 36,000 and it's turned down, but it's not showing as much weakness as autos and banks are showing. So I would say probably the Nifty IT sector has got some more steam left. But you should focus more on mid and small caps rather than frontline names. The frontlines are much weaker than the mid cap and small cap names within the IT space.
Okay, I just have one more question, Jay. It's also on the real estate sector. And since you've spoken about mid cap and small cap names, some of them are, of course, leading the large broader markets as well. Any names that stand out for you in the real estate sector at the moment?
I would say I'll put them in the order of relative strength. I would put DLF as the strongest, and followed by Godrej, and then the third would be Oberoi. I believe DLF will probably make one more high, and the Nifty Realty Index will probably set to scale more closer to 800 probably. But so that's the order of preference for me. But once again, as I said, all of them will be short-term trading bets. None of them would be incremental investment opportunities or fresh long ideas.
All right, Jay, we leave it at that. Thank you so much for joining us and taking the time out, talking to us about the markets and where we may be headed. But on that note, I'm going to hand it over to Neeraj, who is also with us. Neeraj, over to you.
Thanks, Agam, and let me kickstart India market close from here. We've heard from, one expert, and we'll get you a slew of experts over the course of the next 1 hour to try and dissect what to make of this correction that has come, because mind you, this has not come with the global markets falling. If you can just pull up the global market picture once, Europe in particular, so FTSE, CAC, DAX, whichever index we can show, because it's not that those markets are seeing a very sharp gash. I think the fall that has come in into our markets principally, and at the broader end of the spectrum, more important. It's not that the large caps have really cracked. Yes, the Nifty's come off. It's not that the Nifty is really cracked under pressure, but the mid-cap end of the spectrum is very, very soiled. So look at this. Europe is okay, but pull up the Nifty picture then, and pull up the mid-cap and the small-cap picture, and that will tell you a story, particularly the broader end of the spectrum. This is the day's high, 21593. We are at 21252. That is nearly 350 points from the highs of the day. So it's a sharp gash there, and the Nifty is now at the lowest point of the day. The mid-cap and the small-cap end of the market, so 1.8% lower. And look at this, the sharp gash that come in, and we're staying lower. Again, for the small-cap end of the spectrum as well, I think the gash is very sharp, and we're staying low. So that's the point, that the mid-caps and the small-caps have really cracked under pressure. The market breadth would not be pretty. That's the very simple way to put it. And while Tamanna will round up what's happening at the broader end of the spectrum, the ticker anyways tells you the key losers. But this is the large cap end of the market. Adani Enterprises and Adani Port about 3.5% apiece. UPL is cracked. Tata Steel about 2.5% lower. There is weakness in HDFC Life, Tata Motors. Effectively, it's a turnaround from what was the screen in the morning. We had just one loser, 49 gainers. We now have just a row of gainers, and it largely belongs to the defensives. Essentially, everything else has come off on the Nifty. But like I said, the real picture and the real story is at the broader end of the spectrum. And before I hand it over to Tamanna, just pull up the advanced decline ratio here on the screen and just show you those two worms. They would have intersected sometime around noon, and right now, or actually post that, and look at the yawning gap currently between the advances and the declines. That's about 253 advances for 1,700 declines. This is arguably the worst market day that we've seen in some time. Tamanna, the broader end of the spectrum reeling under some serious pressure.
Absolutely. And Neeraj, now there could be a variety of reasons why we are seeing this kind of a sell-off. It could be that finally that Christmas mood has set in. FIIs are saying let's wind up some positions at least and go off on holiday. It could also be a slightly late realization of what is the entire range of implications of what the RBI has decided to do. And why am I saying that? I want to look at Piramal Enterprises. I want to look at IIFL, look at Bank of India, look at UCO, look at some of these counters which are seeing some heavy duty selling pressure in the last few hours. India Bulls Real Estate, India Bulls Housing, IOB. if you just pull up some of those counters, you will see that there is definitely selling pressure that is being seen. And that seems to be the large, broader story. We can even show it behind on the wall as well as on the AR graphic to just get a better picture of what has been the losing side of the story today. And yes, absolutely, iBulls looking like it's in deep pain as we go into closing. What else has been happening today? If I were to pick a couple of stocks, Vodafone again on the broader side of the market feeling the heat. So September subscriber numbers came in earlier today, just about this afternoon actually, and Vodafone continues to lose subscribers.